Before we get into today's video, if you want to see Denver go out and bring out the checkbook and make a huge splash signing this offseason, then go ahead and like this video. Because honestly, whether you want it to happen or not, there's nothing worse than being that team in free agency that does nothing, and all you do is just keep refreshing your feed looking for something interesting to read or watch, and there's just nothing because your team just sat on their hands the whole time. So let's speak it into existence. Like the video. Let's make it happen, George Paton. What's going on, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown. And today we're going to check out some free agent targets for Denver, just to keep an eye on, as NFL free agency is, almost a month away. March 16th is when the new year starts in the NFL, and Denver hopefully will be very active this offseason, whether it's through a trade, of course in the draft, they've got 5 picks in the first 3 rounds, or even in the free agency market. So let's check out our notes here. Denver's biggest needs this offseason. Of course, quarterback. That is number one, right? And then you go a long way from there, and then you can get some support at edge. It's not like I don't trust Chubb, Cooper, or Malik Reed, but I'd like to see a step up from there. Linebacker and offensive tackle kind of round out the group as well. Denver's got a lot of money to play with, all right? They've got the 6th most cap space right now. They are currently clocking in at about $39 million. That could fluctuate as other teams make some cuts, and maybe Denver does as well, although I don't really see a prime cut candidate for the Broncos this offseason. And the other thing to keep in mind is if Denver goes out and makes a huge trade for Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, or Jimmy G, that's going to eat into that cap space because right now Denver doesn't have a huge quarterback contract eating up a ton of that cap room. So we'll go through all 3 positions that I think are the biggest needs for the Denver Broncos. We'll go through the quarterback, we'll go through the edge, 3, 4, linebackers, and offensive tackles. Let's start with the quarterbacks in free agency. Guys, it's not a good list. I'm going to be honest. Yeah, this is what you get. Jameis Winston's number 1, and then when Teddy's number 2, you know it is not the nicest fruit. It's kind of those apples that are bruised, and I'm sorry, that was mean to Teddy, but I just don't want to see the same thing we saw last year. Teddy probably got more hate or disrespect than he deserved, but we also kind of saw what the ceiling is for Bridgewater. And then Trubisky, he'll be an interesting name this offseason. Not really sure what the interest will be for him, but I bet he's going to get some phone calls, or at least his agent will. So with that all in mind, Broncos GM George Paton, please do not go down this path. Do not resort to free agency. It's not going to be fun, okay? I just don't want to see that. Honestly, I may be inclined to go with Drew Lock over any of those 3 guys, because at least Lock, you have that feeling where if it works out well, you're like, I knew that was a good pick. I knew that second rounder was well spent, right? That's always a good feeling as a sports fan when a pick actually comes and blossoms into what you hoped it would have been. Is Drew Lock better than those 3 guys? I can't confidently say yes or no, but at least you got that hometown spirit, right? So let's pick a quarterback route for the Broncos. How do you want Denver to find their next QB? You want it to be in the draft? You want to be through a trade? Maybe through free agency? Or maybe you want to stick with Drew Lock. Maybe you want to roll with number 3. Let me know in the comments section how you want Denver to find their quarterback for next year. Now we address the edge issue for the Broncos this offseason. I've got my top 5 guys. Number 5 is Dante Fowler Jr., former first-round pick. Didn't quite work out for the Jags. So-so with the Rams. Found a heartbeat with the Falcons, but this year was not the best. We'll look at his stats later on. Number 4 is Jadeveon Clowney. This is a player that's been a bit of a roller coaster. You know, if he doesn't knock off that Michigan running back's helmet in the bowl game, I don't know if he's a first overall pick, and I don't know if he has these huge expectations. But he had a good year for the Browns after having a couple bad years in Seattle, Tennessee, and so-so with the Texans down the stretch. So Clowney clocks in at number 4, although he had a pretty good year this past season. Chandler Jones at number 3. We're getting a bit towards the veteran side of things here with Chandler Jones. He's older than Clowney and Fowler, but he's better than Clowney and Fowler. If Denver wants to go all chips in and find some veteran pieces that can help them win a Super Bowl in the next 1 to 3 years, Chandler Jones may be your guy. Let's compare these 3 guys because they're kind of further away than the top 2 who we'll look at later on. Dante Fowler Jr., Clowney, and Jones. You can tell they're kind of in order of how I rank them, and their stats reflect that, especially in the sack column across the board. Although Clowney will be an interesting name to watch just because he had a breakout year with Cleveland. 9 sacks after having basically no sacks in Tennessee or in Seattle the prior 2 seasons. So we'll keep an eye on Clowney this offseason. His agent will be busy. He better keep his phone charged. Number 2 is Haason Reddick. This is now going to be an interesting free agency for Reddick because the former first-round pick out of Temple went to the Cardinals, just didn't live up to first-round expectations. And so the Cardinals didn't want to give him his 5th-year option, let him hit the road. Carolina picks him up, and that was a great signing across the board, I would say, for both parties. In fact, Haason Reddick, the last 2 seasons, has been on a tear. 23.5 sacks in the last 2 years for Reddick. So he's going to get paid this offseason. And I would not be opposed if Denver is the team to pay him. I would not mind a Reddick and Chubb on the 2 ends there if they run a 3-4 defense still, and at the edge position for the Broncos, and then have Cooper and Reed fill in and spot them at different 2nd and 3rd down spots there, 1st and 2nd down spots. All right, drum roll for number 1, though. Von Miller. Yeah, that's probably the name that made you click on this video because good old Von's going to be a free agent this year, and why not bring him back? Really, honestly, why not bring him back? If the Broncos want to be serious and want to win playoff games, not just make the playoffs, but win the playoffs, we know Von is a playoff-killing quarterback. So, you know what, Von Miller? Do this for me. Go out and win back-to-back Super Bowls. That's right. Win a Super Bowl in a couple days against the Bengals, then come to Denver and win another Super Bowl. Win 2 straight, 2 in Denver, and go down as the greatest player in Broncos history for doing so. No disrespect to Elway, who, of course, had that in his resume as well, but still, it's all about recency bias. I'm getting caught up in the emotions right now. I'll probably regret that statement later on, but I don't care right now. Get Von Miller back to Denver. He wants to come back. In fact, he has played like the elite pass rusher we all know him as in his last week of football, last 7 games. Sure, he had a rough start to his transition to LA and kind of a great start to the season and then sort of plateaued a little bit, but his last 7 games, look, he's hunting down Tom Brady like he's been doing his whole career. 7 sacks, 10 QB hits in his last 7. Make it a 8th sack or make it 10 sacks in his last 8 games, counting the Super Bowl. I would love to see that. Von Miller, during Super Bowl Media Week, was asked about his transition, being traded from Denver to LA. And here's what he said. I didn't want to leave. If it was up to me, I'd still be in Denver. This wasn't my choice. I always wanted to be a Denver Bronco forever. I'll always be a Denver Bronco forever. I'm just here working in LA right now. That sounds like LA is his side piece, and his wife caught him, and he's like, trust me, baby, you're the only one for me, okay? He wants to be a Bronco forever. We can kind of make that happen still. Bring him back to Denver, and there'll be that one season where he played half a year in LA when Denver was half-ass rebuilding, but not really. Like, just make it happen. Let's get him back. Type me if you want to bring Von Miller back to Denver. Flood the comment section with me. I can't guarantee he'll see this video, but I hopefully will guarantee that if he does see this video, he'll see the love and support from Broncos country, and he'll be like, you know what? That one YouTuber, that's a difference maker for me. I'm going back to Denver. Load up the PJ. We're flying back to Mile High. If the Broncos do bring back Von Miller, I'll be racing into the studio, and we'll be getting the producer ready. We'll be getting in the lab, and we'll be getting a video out for you guys ASAP, okay? So make sure you subscribe because that's not going to be a video. That's not a video you will want to miss. Hit that big red button and join the channel if you have not already. Next up on today's show, we're going to check out some linebacker free agent targets for Denver because this is an interesting position. Denver needs help at linebacker. You look at the free agency list coming up, and they're going to lose Kenny Young, Josie Jewell, and A.J. Johnson to free agency. Well, not lose, but they're going to hit free agency. So they're going to have to fill some snaps right there. And I've got my top 4 guys, okay? Anthony Walker, coming from Cleveland, had a 1-year deal after a couple years in Indy. He's just a good tackling machine. He's a good run stopper. Maybe not the best at pass coverage, but the linebacker position just isn't what it used to be in the NFL with how good these front 4 are for how good the front 4 is. And you get these nickel and dime packages as well. Josie Jewell, I like to see him come back. I like to see him. He had his season cut short due to injury on a special teams bogus play. That really sucked. So let's bring Josie Jewell back. I like that idea. Quan Alexander had a great start to his career in Tampa. Then he bounced around a little bit, went to San Francisco, went to the Saints. I wouldn't say he's struggled staying healthy, but he hasn't been a complete Iron Man. But when he's on the field, he is very productive. So I like Kwon Alexander. And then I like A.J. Johnson, another player who had his year cut short after 6 games with the Broncos. Coming out of Tennessee, that's my alma mater, so this is like a 90% driving force for me to want to bring him back. But, I mean, who doesn't like when your college lines up with your pro team? But anyway, A.J. Johnson, though, all jokes aside, was a great linebacker for the Broncos the last couple of years, and I like to see him come back, and maybe the Broncos can get Josie Jewell and A.J. Johnson back on some team-friendly deals. I recently moved, like I say recently, it's been about 6-7 months. Moving sucks. Can we all agree? So for these two guys, you don't have to move. Stay in Denver. Maybe another team will offer you an extra $500,000. But once you move, it's not really worth it. You got to go house hunting. Stay put in Denver. Enjoy the beautiful background, the beautiful scenery. You can go skiing in the offseason. Well, maybe their contracts don't allow that. But anyway, stay in Denver, all right? Get some team-friendly deals for these guys. Before we check out the last segment of our show, I want to tell you about our sportsbook partner, BetUS. If you haven't heard me talk about them before, they are the best sportsbook out there. Head on over to chatsports.com/bet. Use the promo code Broncos125, and that gets you a 125% deposit bonus, all right? So in English, let's say you want to put $100 in, they'll tack on an additional $125, and you can bet $225 on the Super Bowl. I'm riding with the Bengals +4. I just think that's a lot of points for a Super Bowl, and I've said it before, I like the under. It's at 48.5. It's fluctuating. I'm going to take the under in this one because Von Miller is just not going to let Joey Cool Joe, what's his name? Joey Burrow? Cool Joe, yeah. Put up a ton of points on him. Wow, I sounded really lame there. So I'm taking the under. I'm taking the Bengals +4. Let me know what you're picking down below, and maybe I'll ride with you and fade myself. Next up, offensive tackle free agent for the Broncos. So Garrett Bowles is going to hold down the left side of the line. On the right side, Bobby Massey was on a 1-year deal. I bet they just go separate ways at this point. It's not like Massey sucked, but you want to shoot for better play. And Fleming and Anderson, they're not going to cut it. They're not going to be there most likely. So here are my top 5 offensive tackle free agents. Riley Reiff is a bit older. He's playing in the Super Bowl on Sunday, so maybe if he wins a Super Bowl, he'll be like, you know what? It's been my lifelong dream to go out and play in Denver. I don't know why it would be, Anyway, so that could be one. Eric Fisher, coming off that Achilles injury, and he's looked pretty good this year for the Colts. So I'm guessing the Colts don't want to let him leave, but if he does, how about we get a spy? How about he gives us some of the Andy Reid playbook stuff he knows from his time in Kansas City? Morgan Moses, a younger name. That's why I like him a little bit more. Coming from the Jets. He was on the Jets, so you probably didn't see him much this year. But he's pretty good. You got to trust Moses. So I like the idea of Morgan Moses. Cam Robinson, the youngest of the bunch. Good offensive tackle like the Jags. I like the Jets. You didn't see much of him this year in Jacksonville, but he's one of those unsung heroes on the offensive line. He's one of those guys that if you want to impress your friends and you know football, say like Cam Robinson. That's a beast right there. Like, oh, shit, he knows football. And then Terron Armstead. This is my biggest name right here because here's the thing with Armstead. He is way better than everyone else on this list, except when Eric Fisher was at his prime, but he struggled staying healthy. So Armstead could be a steal for the Broncos. If they're able to get him on a bit of a cheaper deal because of the injuries he's had, and maybe he gets, healthy. And sometimes players, I can't explain the human body. I don't know anatomy, but maybe a change of scenery could everything Armstead needs, and then he's healthy, and we get the best out of Armstead. So that could be a steal right there for the Broncos. All right, those are my free agent targets. We'll catch you guys later here on the Broncos Breakdown.